In 1981, a real scientist flew deep into the jungle to hunt for a living dinosaur. That really happened, and you can still read the book he wrote about it. He went because for 100 years, people kept seeing the same strange animals: a horned beast that kills elephants, a flying reptile with sharp teeth, a giant with a long neck hiding in a lake. Dinosaurs are supposed to be gone. So why do people keep seeing them? Today, I'll show you all 7, what people saw, and what the proof really says. And the story at number 1, it made a scientist risk everything to find the truth. Number 7. T-Rex. Imagine finding your cattle ripped apart and half-eaten, scattered across miles of empty Australian bush. That's what ranchers near Burketown faced back in 1950. At first, they blamed crocodiles. But one cattleman, Charles Waterman, swore he saw the real culprit, a mottled, 20-foot beast carrying a full-grown cow in its jaws as it crashed into the scrub. The locals call it the Burrinjor, and they say it looks like a living Tyrannosaurus rex. It walks on 2 legs, drags a long heavy tail, and folds 2 tiny arms against its chest. The Aboriginal people of Arnhem Land, in Australia's far north, have warned of it for thousands of years, long before anyone in the West had ever dug up a single dinosaur bone. Here's the part most people never hear. In 1978, a bushman named Brian Clark got lost out there for 3 days. A policeman and 2 trackers went searching for him. One night, they camped near the Burrinjor's country. That's when the ground began to shake. They heard a huge grunting, puffing roar in the dark, so they leapt onto their horses and fled before dawn. The policeman refused to put it in his report. Why? Because he was sure no one would ever believe him. Number 6. Pterosaur. There's a swamp in Zambia so feared that people once carried magic charms just across the rivers near it. The thing they dreaded has a name that means breaker of boats. It's called the Kongamato, and the people who describe it draw something that should be impossible: a pterosaur, a leathery flying reptile from the age of dinosaurs. They say it's reddish-black, with no feathers, a beak full of teeth, and bat-like wings stretching up to 7 feet across. In 1923, a British traveler named Frank Melland heard the stories and showed villagers pictures of many prehistoric animals. Without hesitation, they pointed to the pterosaur every single time. Here's a detail that'll stick with you. When the Kongamato is said to kill a person, it supposedly doesn't eat all of them. Only the little fingers, the toes, the earlobes, and the nose. In 1956, an engineer named J.P.F. Brown swore he watched 2 of them glide silently overhead at dusk. One opened its mouth wide, showing a row of pointed teeth. A year later, a man stumbled into a hospital with a deep wound torn across his chest. The doctors asked him to draw what attacked him. He sketched a creature that's been extinct for 66 million years. Number 5. Triceratops. Picture a creature the size of an elephant that eats nothing but plants, yet kills full-grown elephants for no reason at all. In the swamps of the Congo, the local people have a name for it: Emelantuka, which means killer of elephants. They describe a stout gray animal with 4 heavy legs, a long crocodile-like tail, and 1 massive horn jutting from its snout. To many, that sounds like a triceratops, a horned dinosaur thought to have died out millions of years ago. But here's the strange part. A triceratops has a wide, bony frill behind its head, like a great shield. The witnesses never mention a frill at all. The first written report came from a French game inspector named Lucien Blancou in 1954. He noted something chilling. One of these beasts had reportedly been killed near a village called Dongu about 20 years before. Nobody kept it. No bones, no photos, just the story. In 1981, an American scientist named Roy McCall pushed deep into the Likuala swamp and gathered account after account of this animal goring elephants to death with a single thrust. That's the real puzzle. It harms nothing for food. Therefore, when it charges and rips an elephant open, it isn't hunting at all. It's simply furious that you came too close. Number 4. Stegosaurus. Its name is so strange you have to say it 3 times. Mbielu, Mbielu, Mbielu. In the Congo, those words mean the animal with planks growing out of its back. That's exactly how the locals describe it. A creature that sits almost completely underwater, with only a row of tall plates breaking the surface. To many people, that sounds like a stegosaurus, the plant-eating dinosaur famous for the bony plates running down its spine. Here's a detail nobody expects. The animal sits so still for so long that green algae and moss actually grow across the plates on its back. Picture that, a living thing wearing its own garden. In 1980, an American scientist named Roy McCall handed a woman named Odette Jezonger a stack of picture books full of animals. Without pausing, she pointed to the stegosaurus and said that was the beast her people knew. But there's an honest twist most videos skip. Odette had never actually seen it herself. The story came from her parents. That's the real mystery of this one. Almost nobody has ever described its head, its legs, or its face. The whole body stays hidden beneath the water. Only those algae-covered planks ever rise into the light, drifting slowly across the swamp in the late afternoon sun. Number 3. Theropod. What if a dinosaur never died off in some warm jungle, but learned instead to survive the frozen Arctic? On Christmas Eve in 1907, a missionary named Father Lavignou said he watched one race across a frozen river in Canada's Yukon, a dead caribou clamped in its jaws. It was 45 degrees below zero. He wrote that the monster's fur was caked white with frost, and its little eyes gleamed like fire in the twilight. That's right, fur. Witnesses swore this beast was covered in coarse gray-black bristles, like a giant wild boar. The tale began back in 1903, when two hunters tracking moose found enormous footprints pressed deep into the mud, with a heavy tail dragging behind. They gathered a search party and waited above a ravine. At sunset, a roar split the silence. A huge clawed creature climbed the far slope, watched them for 10 long minutes, before bounding away on 2 legs. Here's the eerie footnote. The Duke of Westminster, one of the richest men in England, was so gripped by the story that he planned a trip to the Yukon, armed with a giant steel cage to catch the thing alive. But the First World War broke out. His expedition was canceled, and nobody ever went hunting it again. Number 2. Flying dinosaur. On an island near Papua New Guinea, the locals tell of a creature that glows in the dark as it flies. They call it the ropen, and they say its body lights up for about 5 seconds at a time as it sweeps low over the water, hunting fish. Some call it the demon flyer. Others use a darker name that means the bird that flies at night and brings death. It's described as a huge featherless flyer with leathery bat-like wings, a long tail, and a beak full of teeth. Unlike a bat, it doesn't hang upside down. It perches upright, like a bird waiting in a tree. Here's the sighting that gives people chills. Around 1994, 7 boys hiked up to a crater lake called Pung on Umboy Island. In broad daylight, a massive creature rose over the water right in front of them. All 7 turned and ran home in terror. One of those boys, named Mesa, was filmed describing it 10 years later. The camera caught him still looking shaken all that time afterward. The strangest reports come at night, though. Fishermen say a sudden glow lights up the reef, bright as a flash, before fading. Whatever makes that light, it isn't a campfire. It isn't the moon. It rises from the mountains, and it flies. Number 1. Mokele Mbembe. You've probably heard of the Mokele Mbembe, the long-necked dinosaur said to haunt a lake deep in the Congo. But there's one story about it that almost no one tells, and it might be the strangest of them all. Around 1959, by a remote lake called Tele, a group of forest people grew tired of a huge animal pushing into their fishing waters, so they built a wall of sharpened stakes across the channel to block it. 2 of the creatures came anyway and tried to smash through. The hunters speared one of them to death. As it died, they later said, they copied the sound of its dying cry, a noise they would never forget. What came next turned the whole thing into legend. They held a feast and cooked the meat. Everyone who ate it died soon after. To this day, locals say the flesh of that beast is cursed. The animal they described wasn't quite the cartoon dinosaur you'd expect. It was bigger than a forest elephant, with smooth, reddish-brown skin, a long, flexible tail, and a small snake-like head topped with a comb-shaped frill. The very first written hint of this creature goes back to 1776, when a French priest found footprints in the mud, each one nearly 3 feet around. He never saw what made them. But here's the part I didn't tell you. The 7 stories you just heard, that's not even close to all of them. There are creatures people swear they've seen that are way stranger than dinosaurs. And every week, I dig up the reports most videos never talk about. So if you don't want to miss the next one, subscribe now, and I'll see you there.